My husband was in the middle of pouring a glass of wine for his brother when my friend David placed his jeweler's loupe down on the dining table. The conversation stopped. Not gradually, the way dinner conversations fade when something interrupts them, all at once like someone had cut the sound. David looked across the table at my husband. His voice was completely neutral, the way professionals sound when they're delivering information they didn't manufacture and don't need to defend. "This isn't a diamond," he said. "It's a $20 piece of glass." My husband's hand was still holding the wine bottle. The pour stopped. I watched the color leave his face in a way I'd never seen happen to a person before, not a blush, not a flush, but a draining, like something underneath had simply given way. Across from him, my brother-in-law let out a short laugh, the kind that's meant to sound like amusement but lands as something closer to panic. His hand moved to the Rolex on his wrist, an adjustment that he probably didn't realize he was making. They'd spent 3 weeks convincing me I was imagining things. They had no idea what was waiting for them inside my purse. To understand how I got to that dinner table, I need to go back to the beginning. Not the beginning of the marriage, the beginning of the ring. Marcus proposed 6 years ago with a solitaire that he'd spent 4 months picking out. He told me that himself, unprompted on the night he proposed, that he'd gone to 4 different jewelers, that he'd learned more about cut and clarity than he'd ever expected to, that he'd wanted to get it exactly right. The diamond was just under a carat, an ideal cut, the kind that catches light at angles you don't expect and throws it back at you in ways that still surprised me after years of wearing it. I'm not a particularly material person. I want to be clear about that. But that ring meant something specific to me, not because of what it cost, but because of what it represented. The idea that someone had paid that much attention to something meant for me. I'd worn it every day for 6 years. I knew it the way you know something you wear every day, its weight, the way it sat on my finger, the particular way it caught the light on my left hand when I was driving and the sun hit it at the right angle. So when it started looking wrong, I noticed immediately. It was a Tuesday morning 3.5 weeks before that dinner. I was getting ready for work, washing my hands at the bathroom sink, and I glanced down at the ring the way you glance at something familiar, not really looking. Except something made me actually look. The stone was dull. Not the kind of dull that comes from lotion buildup or soap film. I knew what that looked like. It happened occasionally and a soft cloth fixed it in 30 seconds. This was different. The light wasn't moving through it the way it was supposed to. There was a flatness to it, an opacity, something that wasn't catching and throwing back the way it always had. I dried my hands and held it up under the bathroom light, turning my hand slowly. There was a scratch, a thin one, barely visible, running across the surface of the stone at an angle, small enough that you'd miss it if you weren't looking. I almost missed it. Diamonds don't scratch. That's not a figure of speech or a piece of jewelry commercial marketing. It's a physical fact. Diamond is the hardest natural substance on Earth, a 10 on the Mohs scale, and the only thing that can scratch a diamond is another diamond. Surface scratches on a diamond are essentially impossible under normal wear conditions. I stood in the bathroom for a long time, turning my hand under the light, telling myself I was wrong, that I was tired, that the light in the bathroom was bad, that I was overdue for a cleaning. That night I brought it up to Marcus carefully. The way you bring up something you already suspect will not go well. "Something looks different about my ring," I said. "The stone looks cloudy, there's a mark on it." He didn't look up from his phone immediately. When he did, his expression wasn't concern. It moved straight past concern into something defensive, which is a transition that, I understand now, happens fastest in people who already know the answer to the question being asked. "What are you talking about?" he said. "The diamond, it looks dull. And there's a scratch on the surface, which shouldn't be possible, so I'm thinking maybe. You're imagining things, flat final. Marcus, I've worn this ring every day for 6 years. I know what it looks like." He set his phone down. "Okay, so what are you saying? What exactly are you accusing me of?" "I'm not accusing you of anything," I said. "I'm saying the ring looks different and I don't understand why." "It looks the same," he said. "You just don't take care of your jewelry properly. You wear it in the shower, you wear it when you're cleaning, and then you're shocked when it doesn't sparkle like it's brand new. Get it professionally cleaned if you're that worried about it." I did get it professionally cleaned. I dropped it off at a jeweler near my office 2 days later, picked it up the same afternoon, and it looked the same. Still dull, still flat. The jeweler, a woman I'd never met before, had looked at it briefly while she cleaned it and said, neutrally, "This is a nice setting." She'd said nothing about the stone. At the time I thought that was normal. Afterward I kept coming back to it. Marcus's family came for dinner that Saturday. His parents, his brother Ryan, Ryan's girlfriend of the moment. I'd always found these evenings manageable, which is the most generous word I can use for a family dinner where I consistently felt like a guest in my own home. Ryan was Marcus's younger brother by 4 years and the permanent financial black hole at the center of their family's solar system. Not maliciously, or not intentionally at least, but in the specific exhausting way of someone who had simply never been allowed to experience consequences. Marcus had covered his rent twice that I knew about. His parents had co-signed a car loan that went bad. There was a business idea that had required a few $1,000s to get started, and had generated nothing except a dormant LLC filing and a logo. Ryan was always going to be Ryan. Marcus had never been able to see that clearly. That Saturday, I made the mistake of mentioning my concern about the ring at dinner. Not as an accusation, as a genuine question, hoping someone might have a useful perspective. Marcus's mother looked at the ring, then at me, then at Marcus with an expression I recognized as the one that means we already talked about this. "It looks beautiful, sweetheart," she said. "Some women just have a hard time with delicate things." Marcus's father nodded along with the seasoned confidence of a man who has never owned anything delicate. Ryan glanced over with the particular disinterest of someone who had been briefed on how to react. "I think you might just be looking for problems," Ryan said, reaching for the bread basket. "Not everything means something." I smiled and changed the subject, and that night I cried in the bathroom with the door locked and the shower running, which is a thing I hadn't done since I was 22 and living in my first apartment and convinced I was failing at everything. The truly disorienting part about being gaslit by someone you love is that it doesn't feel like an attack. It feels like a fog. Like the air in the room has gradually changed composition, and you're the only one who noticed and everyone around you is breathing just fine, so maybe the problem is your lungs. I started second-guessing the scratch. I started second-guessing my memory of how the stone used to look. I started wondering if I was the kind of person who manufactured problems, who needed drama, who was, as Marcus had said with that flat certainty, imagining things. I was in the laundry room on a Thursday evening, 11 days after that dinner, working through a basket of Marcus's dry clean-only pile that he'd thrown in with the regular washing and I'd caught before the spin cycle. His heavy winter coat, the charcoal one he'd worn twice in the past month, needed to be set aside. I draped it over my arm and checked the pockets out of habit. I'd found a parking ticket in there once that had tripled in fines before anyone noticed. My fingers found something in the interior breast pocket. A piece of paper, folded in thirds, slightly crumpled the way something gets when it's been pushed to the bottom of a pocket and forgotten. I unfolded it under the laundry room light. It was a receipt. A transaction record from a diamond exchange downtown, the kind of place that buys loose stones and estate jewelry. The date at the top was 3 weeks ago, which was the week the ring started looking different. The transaction description read, "1 loose diamond, round brilliant, 0.97 CT, V's 2 clarity. The payout $8,500, cash." The signature at the bottom was Marcus's. I recognized his handwriting from 6 years of grocery lists and birthday cards and the note he'd left me the morning of our wedding because he thought it was bad luck to call. I stood in the laundry room for a long time, holding that piece of paper, not moving. The washing machine finished its cycle and clicked into silence. I wasn't crying. I noticed that very specifically, that I wasn't crying. There was something that felt like it should have been tears, some pressure behind my eyes, but it didn't come. What came instead was a clarity so sudden and so total that it almost felt like cold water. I folded the receipt carefully back into thirds. I slid it into the pocket of my own cardigan. I finished the laundry. Then I went to my phone and I opened Instagram and I went to Ryan's profile. And I scrolled back 3 weeks to a photo he'd posted with a caption about finally seeing returns on some smart moves. He was at a rooftop bar somewhere, arm around a friend, grinning. On his wrist was a Rolex, brand new from the look of it, still bright, the kind of watch that costs somewhere between $8,000 and $10,000 depending on the model. I looked at that photo for a while, then I closed the app. Then I opened my contacts and scrolled to a name I hadn't called in a few months. David. We'd been friends since college. He'd gone into gemology after graduation, certified, trained, the kind of person who carries a loop in his jacket pocket the way other people carry pens. I'd always thought that was a slightly eccentric professional habit. I called him and I explained everything calmly, from beginning to end. When I finished, there was a short silence on his end. "Do you want me to look at it officially," he said, "or do you just need to know for yourself?" "Both," I said, "and I need you at dinner next Friday." I kept the receipt in the pocket of my cardigan for the rest of that evening, and I did not take it out again until I was alone. Marcus came to bed around 11. I lay beside him in the dark and listened to him breathe and thought about the fact that the man 3 feet away from me had sold my wedding ring, replaced it with glass, and then spent 2 weeks calling me paranoid for noticing. I thought about the Saturday dinner where his mother had patted my hand and told me some women had a hard time with delicate things. I thought about the locked bathroom and the shower running and the specific quality of crying that happens when you've been made to feel like the problem. I didn't sleep much, but I wasn't anxious. That was the thing I kept coming back to. The anxiety was simply gone, replaced by something much quieter and considerably more focused. In the morning, I waited until Marcus left for work. Then I sat at the kitchen table with the receipt, my laptop, and a yellow legal pad, and I built a timeline. The receipt was dated a Thursday, 3.5 weeks ago. I went back through my phone photos and found a picture I'd taken of my hand the Saturday before that, a friend's birthday. I'd painted my nails for it. And there in the corner of the photo was my left hand on a table, the ring clearly visible. The stone in that photo had depth to it, the particular way a real diamond photographs, catching light from multiple directions at once. I took a photo of the ring that morning and put it next to the old one. The difference was not subtle. I saved both photos to a folder I labeled with no particular creativity evidence. Then I opened Instagram and went to Ryan's profile. The Rolex photo was right there, 3 weeks old, posted the Saturday after the receipt date. He was at some rooftop bar, grinning, arms slung around someone I didn't recognize. The caption said something about smart investments and long-term thinking, which would have been funny under different circumstances. The watch on his wrist was a Rolex Oyster Perpetual. From what I could tell from the photo, retails somewhere between $7,000 and $10,000 depending on the configuration, which put it comfortably within the range of what Marcus had collected for my diamond. I screenshotted it and added it to the folder. I'm not someone who moves fast on big decisions as a rule. I think things through, sometimes too thoroughly, sometimes to the point where Marcus had accused me of being unable to just go with something, just trust, which I now understood was a complaint that had served a specific purpose, keeping me slow and second-guessing while he moved quickly and with certainty. I moved quickly now. I had a consultation with a divorce attorney that same week, a woman named Patricia who had the particular calm of someone who had heard every version of this story and found none of them surprising. I laid out the situation in the order it had happened. She listened without interrupting, which I appreciated. "You have a signed transaction record with his name on it," she said when I finished. "You have photographic evidence of the original stone, which establishes what was there before. You have documentation of the replacement stone being of significantly lower value, and you have a corroborating purchase by the brother-in-law that aligns with the timeline." "Yes," I said. "Is there a family event coming up where this could be addressed with witnesses present?" she said. I looked at her for a moment. "There's a family dinner next Friday." She pulled a folder from her desk drawer and slid it across to me. "Let's talk about what you want the paperwork to say." I called David that evening. We'd been friends since our sophomore year of college, bonded initially over a shared elective in art history that neither of us had expected to find genuinely interesting. He'd gone into gemology afterward, which I had always thought was a lovely and slightly eccentric professional path, and he was good at it, patient, precise, the kind of person who explained things thoroughly without making you feel like you should already know them. I told him everything. He was quiet while I talked, the way he gets when he's actually paying attention. "I need you at dinner next Friday," I said. "Bring the ring," he said. "Don't bring anything," I said. "Just come to dinner, the ring will be there." The week between that phone call and Friday dinner was the strangest week of my marriage, because from the outside it looked entirely normal. I cooked. I asked Marcus about his day. I passed him the remote and said I didn't mind what we watched. He had no idea that I had already spoken to an attorney, that I had a folder of evidence saved to a cloud drive under a password he didn't know, that I had confirmed a reservation at a hotel downtown for Friday night. He did, at one point that week, try to bring up the ring again, preemptively, I thought, though maybe I'm reading backward into it now. "I've been thinking," he said, "about getting your ring professionally looked at, since you've been so worried about it, just to put your mind at ease." "That's thoughtful," I said. "I'll set it up," he said. "Sure," I said. He never set it up. I hadn't expected him to. Friday arrived the way days you've been waiting for always arrive. The same as any other day, deceptively ordinary until it isn't. I spent the afternoon making the kind of dinner that requires actual attention, which was by design. Staying occupied kept me from feeling the particular electricity of waiting. Marcus's parents arrived first, then an aunt and uncle I'd always liked reasonably well, then Ryan, who came through the door already performing, louder than necessary, a story already half finished, the Rolex visible on his wrist from across the entryway, the way things are visible when someone wants them to be seen. "New watch," Marcus's mother said admiringly. "Finally treating myself," Ryan said in the tone of someone who has been practicing the sentence. "A guy works hard, you know." I smiled from the kitchen doorway and said nothing. David arrived 20 minutes into drinks, right on time. He was dressed simply, neatly, carried nothing except his keys and his phone, and in the inside breast pocket of his jacket, the small leather case that held his loupe, which I knew was there because I knew David, and David brought his loupe the way other people bring their glasses. He didn't need to announce it. He didn't need to make anything of his arrival at all. Marcus shook his hand with the slightly over-firm grip he used on people he didn't entirely know what to do with. "Great to finally meet you," Marcus said. "Claire talks about you a lot." "Same," David said pleasantly, and that was that. Dinner was lamb and roasted vegetables, and a good bottle of wine that Marcus opened with the careful ceremony he used on occasions. He wanted to feel significant. The conversation moved the way family dinner conversations move, comfortably, surface level, covering the usual territories of work and weekend plans and what someone's cousin was up to. I waited until we were well into the main course, past the point where the food had settled the room into a comfortable rhythm, and people's guards had come down the way they do after a glass of wine and a full plate. I waited until Ryan had laughed at his own joke about the watch twice and Marcus had refilled glasses and the evening felt, to everyone but me, entirely normal. Then I slipped the ring off my finger. I'd been doing it casually all week when I was alone, practicing almost the gesture of it, making sure my hands wouldn't shake when the moment arrived. They didn't shake. I turned to David, who was sitting 2 seats to my left, and I held the ring out across the table in the ordinary way you'd hand someone something to look at. "David," I said, "you're the expert. I've been having trouble with this ring scratching. Can you tell me what's going on with it?" Something shifted in the room. Subtle, but there. Marcus's eyes moved to the ring, then to David, then back to me, and I watched him make a calculation whether to intervene, whether to laugh it off, whether there was a version of this where he still controlled the outcome. He reached forward. "I can just let him look," I said, not unkindly, and David had already taken the ring. He held it up to the dining room light first, turning it slowly. Then he reached into his jacket and produced the loupe with the unhurried confidence of someone doing something they've done 10,000 times. He held it to his eye. He examined the stone for perhaps 15 seconds. The table had gone quiet in the specific way tables go quiet when everyone can feel that something real is happening. David set the loupe down on the white tablecloth. He placed the ring beside it. He looked at Marcus. "This isn't a diamond," he said. "It's cubic zirconia, a piece of glass worth maybe $20. The silence that followed was the most complete silence I've ever been in. Not awkward silence, not waiting for someone to speak silence. Something more total than that. Marcus's mother had her fork halfway to her mouth and she set it down without finishing the motion. The aunt looked at the uncle. Ryan's hand went to the Rolex on his wrist, A quick adjustment, a fidget, the body doing the thing it does when the mind is suddenly very busy. Marcus's chair scraped back an inch. He looked at me, and for the first time in our marriage I saw something on his face that wasn't constructed. Raw, unmanaged. You must have switched it. At some point you must have. I have a photo of the ring from 4 weeks ago, I said. You can see the stone clearly, and I have this. I reached into my purse and took out the receipt. I'd folded it to the same 3 panels it had been folded into when I found it in his coat pocket. I unfolded it once, laid it flat on the table in front of me and slid it toward him. Not aggressive, not theatrical. Just placed it there, the way you set down evidence when the evidence speaks clearly enough on its own. He looked at it, he didn't touch it. You sold my diamond 3 weeks ago, I said. $8,500. Cash. The date on that receipt matches exactly when the ring started looking different. Marcus's mother said his name, not as a question. As something else, something with a weight to it that told me she was doing math she didn't want to finish. I looked at Ryan. He was very still. The Rolex caught the light from the dining room fixture the way new things do when they haven't been worn long enough to lose their brightness. Enjoy the watch, I said. I reached back into my purse. The envelope from Patricia's office was there, where I'd put it before dinner, in the outside pocket where I could find it without looking. I set it on top of the receipt. Marcus, I said, those are divorce papers, they're already filed. You have 30 days to respond. I pushed my chair back and picked up my purse. The room was still so quiet I could hear the wine settling in the glasses. There's enough food for everyone, I said. I'm going to head out. I said goodnight to the aunt and uncle, because I'd always liked them reasonably well and none of this was theirs. I didn't say anything to Marcus's mother, or to Ryan, or to Marcus, because everything that needed to be said was already on the table in 2 documents and I had nothing to add to it. The elevator in our building took 45 seconds to arrive. I stood in the hallway and listened to the silence from behind the closed dining room door, and then the voices starting up low at first, then Marcus, then his mother, then something I couldn't make out, and the elevator arrived and the doors closed and the building fell away behind me. I'd booked a room at a hotel downtown with a high floor and a good view, and a bathtub I had confirmed specifically was large. I checked in, took the elevator up, and stood at the window for a few minutes looking at the city. I found out later, through Patricia and through the legal process that followed, that Ryan refused to sell the watch. He kept it, which Patricia said was the kind of thing that tends to go badly for people when judges hear about it, and the judge in our case heard about it thoroughly. Marcus was ordered to pay the full appraised replacement value of the original diamond, not the $8,500 he'd collected for it, but the current retail replacement cost, which had appreciated since the original purchase. The number was considerably higher. I used part of the settlement to buy myself a piece of jewelry I'd looked at in a window years ago and told myself was impractical. I don't think about whether it's practical anymore. It catches the light in the specific way that things do when nobody has replaced them with something cheaper, and called you crazy for noticing the difference. The rest of the settlement went into a savings account with my name on it, at a bank Marcus had never heard of, with statements going to an address that was mine alone. I sleep on whichever side of the bed I want now. That's not a small thing, I'd forgotten it wasn't.